The second half of this project, let me bring in just maybe a little bit of footage here. I'm going to go just to show you what I'm talking about. Let's use one of these. They might be familiar to you. Okay. Yeah, show a little monk footage. Actually, let me drop this down and show you what it's doing here. Okay, so right now we have video. We don't have video. Okay, so the idea is while it's opaque, you're swapping to something else underneath in your editor, in your video editing. It's just a really short little thing. Okay. So if I were to place a piece of video underneath this, I don't want to see any of that original video underneath this bumper. Okay. All right. Let's create another new composition. And this one I'm going to make 10 seconds. Same settings as the one before. I'm going to interpret this. Alright, interpret this footage, bring it down here. Scale it down to the size of this frame. Get a portion that I want. Okay, so let's pretend this is an interview that's actually happening in a documentary, not in a scene in a television show. We want to create this person's name tag to go down at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so I'm going to do a few different things. I'm actually going to use my deep purple and my medium purple layers. I'm going to use some masks. I need to use some particle effects, and I need to which are in the particle effects you'll learn in chapter 13. Question?
Is this a different assignment?
No, it's part of the same assignment. So there's two parts to the logo assignment. All right. And for this one, I'm going to use the cat head symbol down here. So I'm going to just drop this down into the corner. It starts out pretty small already, so that's actually a good size for me to work with. But I need the cat head to be a 3D layer. So there's a lot of different things you can do. I'm going to do one that's I don't know, kind of well, not too cheesy. I'm going to just start by, I want this to be in my title safe area, and make sure that he's right there. This can go a little bit out. I don't want it to go outside of action safe, certainly, but I'm going to keep it inside title safe right there. The text of the title cannot go outside of the inside line, but the graphic can go outside a little bit. Okay, but if you want me to read the text, it definitely needs to be inside this line, this inside line right here. Okay, so that's good. That's a good little guide to go on. I made him 3D. I am going to do a couple of things. I'm just going to do a Z position. So this is where I want him to end, and I want this logo to come in. Take maybe 1 second to come in. So I'll put this keyframe at 1 second. And the reason why I do that is because this is where I want it to end. This is what I want it to look like when it's done animating. So I get that set. Then I start messing with my keyframes. Because if I mess up some keyframes, then I can always delete the earlier keyframes. And so long as I keep this last one, I can always get this set at this position back. So let me just start by dragging him right there. Now if I add some rotation settings, maybe some Y rotation, do 1 time around, see what that looks like. Go here, go to the 1 second mark and make it 0 again. See what happens. Okay. I'm going to have those both happen at the same time. And of course I always like to ease these in. So there's an idea. Alright. I'm also going to maybe, let's just mix this up a little bit and add some orientation to this also. So while it's spinning this way, I'm going to do some X orientation. So I want it to end there. Maybe just screw with this a little bit. And then ease in. See what this looks like. So now I added to it a little weird flopping over. Okay. Does anybody think that's lame? Kind of lame. I don't know. All right. So from here, I want to use my purple layers to create an extra inside thing. So I'm just going to drag the deep purple layer down. I can do this using shapes too. Shape layers. In fact, why don't I just do that? Because you can add different things to shape layers that you can't to solid layers, like gradients, gradient fills and stuff. So I'm just going to draw a shape layer right here. I'm going to fill this with purple. And take the stroke and make there be no stroke. Or change the opacity on the stroke so it's not so bright. Okay. Maybe we could add a little gradient to the fill. And then if we edit that, we can set this side to the purple and this side to the lighter purple. Oh, whoa. Whoops. Okay, that's pretty nasty. Okay. How do we change that gradient so the line is longer? Does anybody remember how to do that?
So what line is long?
So that like the gradient goes from all the way over to here instead of this little space?
Extra tabs and you add a couple extra tabs in there.
Oh, there we go. I just had to get back to my selection tool. There.
Not what I was thinking.
I still don't like it. Okay, I'm going to put this shape layer underneath the cat head layer. Now I'm going to do another one using, I'm going to do another shape layer underneath it, looking like this. Have it go off underneath. Then on this one, I'm going to have the fill be a solid. no stroke, and then have the fill be this lighter color. Place it underneath the other shape layer. Doing a little design work. All right. Now what I want to do, I'm going to just, this is just design stuff. You don't have to do any of this, but I'm going to drop the opacity of this darker one down to like 70%, and the lighter one, I'm going to drop the opacity of that down to like 50. Now I got a little bit of a ghosting thing going on here. I'm going to change the size of this. All right. Cool. So maybe one other thing I might want to do is add some drop shadow to this layer, maybe. I can actually change the shape of the rectangle by, under Contents, Rectangle 1, I can change the shape of that, make it a little taller. I can move this one down this way. Okay. So now what I could do, there's several things I could do, I suppose. My After Effects is about to, oh, whew. I haven't saved this project. Alright, so now if I make a text layer, I can call him Professor Doctor. Make the text small enough to fit here. And then add another subtitle. Call it Weber State University. And make this one even smaller. Maybe make the font less white. There, Professor Doctor. What a guy, that Professor Doctor fellow. All right. Now there's a couple of there's several different things. Now that we got this looking the way we want it to look, we need it to animate in. Right now all we've got is the wildcat head, and I want to actually maybe have that come in twice as fast as it is. I just want it to go just be on, okay? I'm just going to move those two keyframes back. Nice and quick. Then I have a position keyframe under there still. Maybe I like the way it's kind of floating in after it's done rotating. Yeah, sure. All right. Now we need there to be nothing on screen, and then after what, like 1.5 or 2 seconds, for this full title to be on the screen like this. How do you guys envision that happening?
Taking it off.
We can like have the flags. We can like have them, you know, once the wildcat head is in, we can have like the other two objects kind of slide out from underneath it. We could possibly do something like that. What else? I'm just going to try that. I'm going to do it using a track mat. I'm going to use this I'm going to use actually I'm going to create a new solid just so that we can have a solid that we know is like a track mat solid. So I'm going to just make it green. So if I ever see this green, I know it's not what I'm going to want. And what a track mat is, do you remember how a track mat is like a window? It's like saying anything underneath this area you can see. Well, you can do the opposite. You can say anything underneath this area I don't want to see. So if I place this green solid over here, kind of over the cat head, I want to place it above the shape layer, this dark purple shape layer. And then I want to say this shape layer, I want to use this green layer as a window. And then I go to my toggle switches modes, under track mat, do alpha inverted mat. Now, what happened to the green layer? Yeah, when it became invisible because you're using it as a mat, as a window. Right now, it's the inverted thing says anything outside of this. If this object goes outside this area, you'll be able to see it. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Check out what happens when I start moving this object over here. It disappears because it's going back behind that. So with that being said, if I add some keyframes to the position, as soon as this cat head is done moving into place right there, I want it to zing out. So I put a keyframe right here. So now if I just grab this one, move it back here, add some easy ease in. Whoops. Watch what happens. Cat head. Whoa. Okay, maybe even, I want it to happen way faster than that though. Okay, I'm actually going to move this out and add my graph, change my graph editor, and just drag this way back this way, because I like to have things whip. All right. Now I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do this shape layer, but I want this shape layer to come out this way. Now that we've done it with a track mat, let's do it with a mask. Okay, I'm going to add a mask to this layer. I think I can do that to a shape layer. No, I can't. I forget. Okay, so we have to do that to this layer too. Let's duplicate this green layer. Make it so I can see it. And I want to put it right above where I want that layer to go. Okay, now we need to place it above shape layer 2 and then do the alpha inverted mat again. Add some keyframes to it. Position there. Move it up here so it disappears behind the green layer, right? Which is now invisible. Add some easy ease in. I'm going to go into my graph editor, make that whip down. So this is moving fast, moving 0. Moving fast, moving 0. So, whoop.
How do you get
It's this little symbol right here, this graph editor. It'll only show something if you have keyframe selected. So if I select this position keyframe, select the graph editor, then I can change the speed that it moves. Alright, now what am I going to do with these text layers? I could do a preset, do an animation preset. Or I can do something more custom. I can do kind of the same thing where I have them slide in from the side. or I could animate a mask so that they kind of wipe on. So let me do one. Let me do one where we're animating it on using a mask. And then do a preset on the other one, because I'm getting lazy. All right, so with a mask, what you would do is use your, with the layer selected, you go up to the shape tool, which will become your mask tool if you have a shape selected, and draw a box around that text. So it says, this is what you're going to see. Now what you have to do is animate your mask settings. So your mask shape is what you need to animate now. To bring that up, you hit M for mask, and then under your mask path you can add keyframes. So if I add a keyframe here, that means I'm going to see Professor Doctor text. Now if I go back a little bit, maybe what I want it to do is I want to have this solid layer wipe on Professor Doctor. So I'll go back to this I'll go back to this frame right there and set the mask shape so that there's no Professor Doctor. I do need an R in Professor, don't I? Professor Doctor. But now I need it to be done wiping on right about there. So this is a really quick move. Right. All right. Now it looks like Professor Doctor is being wiped on by the purple layer. If I wanted to make this exact, I would actually go, I would move this here and literally rotoscope it so that every frame is like right on the edge of that. That one would be right here. Okay. So look at all the little keyframes I added so that I could make that look right. Make it look perfect. So for the Weber State University text, let's do the opposite. Let's have it wiped down using a mask with the other purple layer. Okay, so let's not get too crazy with it. So I'm going to draw using the shape tool. I'm going to draw a box around Weber State University. Hit M for mask shape. Add a keyframe. And I'm just going to, with mask shape selected, I've got this layer, I've got the mask selected, so I can just use my arrows to move it up. Go forward one frame and just follow the edge of that purple layer as it wipes in. Okay, so I just added a bunch of keyframes for that. Alright, I'm going to deselect, I'm going to turn this layer off, the background layer, and just see what this looks like. Is that okay? That looks alright. Let's watch it a little bit bigger. Okay, now one more thing that your book will teach you how to do in Chapter 13 is add a particle emitter. That's the only thing from Chapter 13 that you're going to need to add to this assignment. So I'm going to do that for you now, and then we'll call this assignment done. So we got one more thing to do. We have to, the way particles work is you have to put a particle emitter on its own layer. So let's create a new layer. We want it to be black. So go down to our new solid, make it black, and click OK. And this creates a black layer. We need to add a particle emitter to this now. And I'm going to just go into my effects and presets and type in particle. I'm having some spelling problems today. There's a few different ones. Let's see what particle playground looks like. No, I don't like particle playground. Let's do particle world. That one's pretty cool. I'm actually going to use particle systems. Now, I'm going to turn off this I'm going to make this the only layer that I can see by soloing it. Now check it out. Check out what happens with these particles. It's like a little explosion. It's like a spray of sparkler material. Okay. Now you can change the settings of this. Right now, they're just these little particles are flying out of one spot right in the center of the screen. They're all flying out uniformly, but then they're being acted upon by gravity. So that's why these are all spewing down and these only go up a little way and then they start falling this way. It's because there's gravity. We can change that. So if we go into physics in our effects controller here and turn gravity to 0, then they'll just fly out. No gravity. Now it's outer space. Okay. You can add like wind resistance. So they'll fly out at a certain speed, but then slow down and stop as they get to the end. Eventually they'll stop if you have them up for long enough. So longevity, we can make the longevity longer, make it 6 seconds long instead of 2. Then they'll go out and live a lot longer.
Firework.
Yeah. You can increase the velocity so that they fly out faster. Okay, it's a lot more explosive. And you can change the direction at which it'll go. Okay. So that's your physics. Your producer is that little spot, that little guy, where the origin of those come from. Okay? So now they spray out of there. I'm going to turn the velocity of this down a lot. And put the life back to 2 seconds. You can make your producer bigger. So you can make it like, whoops, you can make your, have it be an entire row. Or, you can make it taller too. Then you just got a lot of, now it looks just like noise. Okay, all right. So let's put that back down to 3 and 3, make it almost a point. And then, so that's your producer, and you can keyframe this position. If you really want to keyframe this position and have it be able to animate in a curved line, then you would use a null object. You would have the producer be, the position of the producer match the position of the null object. All right, birth rate, so that means less particles per second that come out. Okay. All right, now let's look at the particle itself. Right now it's coming out yellow, and then as it dies, as it gets to the end of its life, it turns red and then dies. You can change that to white and white if you want to, or white then red. Okay, you can turn it from white to Weber State purple. And then opacity map, so as it dies it fades out, or you can say as it dies it fades in, so it starts out you're not seeing it all, and then it becomes more visible over time. So you can have it fade out, have it be constant. I like fade out or fade in and out. That'd be kind of weird. It's kind of interesting. All right. Maximum opacity is how much you'll actually see it. So if I placed this on top of another object, you would never actually see the particles completely covering it because it's not totally opaque unless I put that at 100%. So I'm actually going to make this a lot more subtle. I'm going to drop, because I just want this to be like a little extra animation that's going on inside, I'm going to drop the birth rate down to like 0.2. So there's not a lot of particles. I'm going to have the transfer mode be screen. Let me see what's happening here. That way, I just unsoloed this layer so that now the transfer mode is to composite, add, or black matte. So if I do composite, then that might help a little better. And I can change my random seed so that the random seed is just the random direction that the particles are going to fly out from. If it's not random at all, then they're going to be totally uniform coming out. Okay, so I'm going to just make mine a little bit more random. All right. So one last little thing I need to do here. If I turn on, oh, that's nice. Okay, so if I turn on my little opacity showing, I'm going to have these particles flying over the top of the doctor's face. See those particles? They're just shooting out all over his face. Don't want that. So let's start by bringing this particle emitter down and putting him over the top of these. I'm going to put the velocity down so they're not flying out quite so fast, and maybe increase the longevity just a little bit. Okay, now watch what's happening. Got that little sparkler going on. I want that sparkler to happen underneath the cat head, and I don't want it to start until after the cat head is in place, because look at those little sparks coming out. That's kind of strange. So like maybe right when the cat head hits this position, you might want some sparks to start coming out. But I don't want them to come out onto the doctor here. I just want them to come out inside this little space right here. How would I do that? Yeah, just draw a mask. Yeah, so I can put the mask here, and you know, the question is, do I want sparks to fly on both sides of the cat head or just out to the side? That's your choice. My choice is I want those sparks to only come out from here over. And I'm not going to have the spark start, so that'll be my beginning point for the black solid. Now let's watch. There's still a lot. Seems like a lot to me. I'm going to go into physics, add a bunch more resistance, or maybe less resistance. Have the velocity be lots, like almost nothing. And then have my birth rate be like 0.1, so even less of them. Okay, so that's really subtle. Another thing you can do on top of this now after the particle systems is you can add like a glow effect, so that when the particles are brighter they glow, and then when they dissipate they go down. You could also inside here, you know, add kind of like a sheen going over this shape layer. So one thing that I sometimes like to do that I can get away with is on the And the reason why I have this emitter here is so that the whole time this title is up, it's doing something. It's never just static. Okay? I never just want it to be static. So maybe on this top, on the top shape layer, I'm going to add a wipe. It's called a light wipe, I think. What is it? Light wipe, I think. Density completion. Shape round. Let's see if it's even doing anything. No. Sweep. Sorry, it's a light sweep. Whew. Okay, CC light sweep. Let's use this one. Alright, now check this out. This little directional wheel, it'll wipe that little light across there. And the center of it's right here. So it's really just, it's like a wheel just kind of going across. And you can change all kinds of settings, like you can change the shape of it. You can make it a wider wipe. So you can change the edge of it so that it's a little bit thinner there, edge thickness, edge intensity versus the inner intensity, inside intensity, and you can change the light color too. Once I get all my settings the way I want it to be, I might just go from like 10 seconds, move that wipe off of it completely, and then change my keyframes starting right there so that this wipe will just come across it 2 times over the 10 seconds. Let's see what this looks like. So just talking along there. One more little light sweep just to create some visual interest. Okay. I think what I just did right there would, I'd have to read over all these settings again, but that would probably get you an A. But don't do what I did. Do your own thing. If you do this exactly, then you won't get an A. Okay. And then what you do, okay, we got just a few minutes to go over one last thing, and that is exporting this, because you actually will be sending me some video files. Okay, so I need 2 video files for this one. One of them will be 6 to 10 seconds long, and it needs to be rendered out with alpha. The other one will be 2 seconds long. That's the one where your logo is wiping in and then wiping away. Here's the setting you need to use. It says to render the videos with as an animation with an alpha channel, and then you post them to your assignment. So you'll just take the 2 files, zip them together, and post them up to the assignment board. Here's the settings. This is the first time we've done this in this class, so pay close attention. You want to add this composition to the render queue. Okay. So if you go up to composition, add to render queue, there's your key command. So under your render settings, you want to just keep this at best settings, but there's lots of things under here that you manipulate frames per second, and you can change the quality, like the resolution that it'll render at. Unless you are really going to be getting into this stuff, always just leave this at best settings, okay? So that's your default go-to for this. But under lossless, this is your output module. This is where you say, I want it to be an MP4 or a QuickTime video. And if it's a QuickTime, what codec? Or maybe you just want to export it as Windows Media Video. If you have like Flip for Mac on your computer, you can export it as that. So this is where you do that. Under, you got your image sequences. You can export even audio. You can even add Photoshop sequences. You name it, you got it. So let's just keep it at QuickTime. And under Format Settings, it's already set at animation. Okay, so look right here, that's already set at animation. If you wanted to go in and change the codec, this is where you would do it. So if you remember ProRes, that's that's your kind of high quality Apple codec. But the only one of these ProReses that carry 444 or that carry alpha is the 444, which is a really big file. So just use the animation codec, click OK. And under channels, you need to make sure that your alpha channel is turned on. If you don't turn on alpha channel, then when I put it into the editor, it's going to cover it up with black. Anywhere that you are used to seeing checkerboard to check to make sure if it's see-through, that'll be black. Okay, so the alpha is just your invisible nothingness. If it doesn't have alpha, then it's just RGB, which is black. Okay. Output audio, you don't need to have audio, so you can just turn it off if you want to. Then you click OK. Output 2, this is where you do your save as. I'm just going to export this to my desktop. Call this lower third and hit render. So if you're using the DV24p settings, widescreen settings, your file will probably be about 14.5 megabytes, which is uploadable. Okay. Your other one is going to be like 3 megabytes because it's really small. Now the way I'm going to check this is I'm going to create my own composition that looks something like this. That only has a video on it. Okay. And I'll bring your video in here, plop it on top, and see if it looks something like that. If it covers it up with black, then you get docked for not having the correct export settings, or because either you didn't have the right export settings or you didn't render it on transparent background. There was black. So you want it to show up like this. And then I'll take a look at it, make sure you're using some 3D motion, and then having a particle emitter in some way, and then having visual interest throughout.
So you want visual interest throughout the whole thing?
Yeah, just to keep it from being stagnant. That's what the particle emitter's for. Really, if you wanted to qualify for the particle emitter, you could keyframe the emitter so that it's 0. So it goes from like a birth rate of 0, and then a keyframe 3 later with a birth rate of like 5, and then 3 keyframes later, or 3 frames later, a keyframe of 0 again. That would just be like a burst of them that just come out, and they wouldn't just keep spraying out. So that's how that would work. Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks.